Hail, brothers, and welcome back again to another drop pod. Now, this drop pod has something cool, a sofa. So Ben has come to Bristol once again, and this time, rather than our flashy studio setup that is a couple of random chairs in my hobby room, we're downstairs, sat on a sofa.
Yeah, very cosy.
Yeah, very cosy it is too. So thank you for joining us. We appreciate that. Space Marines going to war on a sofa in a drop pod.
Space Marines going to war on a sofa is the title of my new album.
Coming out, launching in January. Yeah. So guys, thank you for joining us. Tonight, as ever, we are going to the hobby desk, so you'll find out why we're not in my hobby room tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about some hobby sort-outs, I suppose, that you and I have been having.
Yeah.
Into the galaxy of war. So we have a little bit of background to tell you to make sure we get the points we need for our Autumn Tides
because you're
outing
so badly organised.
Because I'm slightly badly organised. Because I spend all my time worrying about Ben, so I don't have time to. And we're gonna be talking to some people about what they brought along to Autumn Tides. So that's pretty cool. Then into the Mortal Realms. Going to talk about world creation, really.
Yeah.
Just some ideas around what actually are the realms. Because we were having a chat about it earlier, and then we thought, well, that would make a good podcast subject, so we'll do that as well. Hail to the community. We've been really fortunate. I've carefully planned, organised a meet-up with Jim so that we could have a structured conversation tonight. So we've got an interview with Jim from Big. He's very kindly chatted to us. And then finally into the Wilds, where we want to talk about some awesome terrain that we've seen recently from Tabletop World.
Yeah.
So guys, make sure you've got your refreshments. We are refreshed at 11:45 in the evening. So thank you for joining us. Catch you soon.
Hi guys, welcome back. And we're on the hobby sofa.
We are. This is flipping awesome.
we need to do this more often.
Podcast sofa.
So I think it's fair to say that there's not many people that are more organised than us. No, the exact opposite. Who are less organised than us, really. The fact that we've just sprung an interview on Jim, who's been very kind and accommodated us, is a very good example. But our hobby rooms have to be another example, don't they? Because we just have a mess.
Well, they are at the moment, but there's a greater. That's what they're working towards, a greater level of organisation.
My hobby desk is organised chaos.
Yeah, but yours is always like that. Mine at the moment, it's really like it's breaking part of my soul.
Yeah.
Because I usually like everything in its place. Dude, I've got separate boxes that I keep the cards and dice for Age of Sigmar separate to Warhammer 40k.
You've gone on about those before.
Yeah, I know, but that's my level of organisation. But at the moment,
it's a bit of a cluster.
Yeah, it's not good. But there is a reason. So, interestingly, not a huge amount of hobby projects, painting projects, or gaming to talk about this week, unfortunately, guys, over the last couple of weeks. But the reason for that is I am having a Pacific Rim moment. By which I mean, and reset the clock.
Yeah.
So, guys, I went through something which many hobbyists probably do go through, but I had that overwhelming sense of, oh my flipping days, I'm never going to get all this done. And actually, it got to the stage where the collection around me of unpainted stuff was getting me down because I wasn't feeling like I could engage with the new and exciting things that were coming out, because of the stuff that was like sitting in the cupboards waiting. So I made the decision to start moving some of that stuff on and trimming down the collection to my core collections, really. So my Khorne army, very close to my heart, and other stuff that I've got painted. So I've got my Age of Sigmar.
Close to your heart. I mean, listen to it. It's like sitting next to the Arch Heretic himself.
Hi, nice to meet you. My name's Khan.
Run!
Games with painted soldiers on painted terrain. I need more painted terrain to do that. And that's my aspiration. And it's great that people enjoy themselves playing with figures that aren't painted and terrain that isn't painted or stuff that they've ad hoc together. There's nothing wrong with that if you love it. It's not my hobby. My hobby is getting those collections, although at the moment it seems simply to be collecting stuff everywhere. So I've started trimming it down. And my wonderful wife, Harriet, has very kindly agreed that one of our back bedrooms I can turn into a little bit of hobby space, hobby Dan space, which is very exciting because it means I'm going to be able to set up some proper storage and a proper gaming table with storage underneath it. I'm really starting enjoying the hobby how I've always kind of dreamed, and it's that bit where I often find myself looking back and thinking, I wish I had the time. I wish I had the time I had then, It was so much better when I was 18. Yeah. The hobby was so much better. I had more time. But actually, what this represents in a kind of slightly early midlife crisis kind of way is...
Go onto his eBay account to work out how big of a midlife crisis
it is. Yeah, it's a chance to really explore the hobby and do things that you can do because you are fortunate enough to have a place that you live in and a room and an incredibly understanding wife.
Yeah,
very much so. At the moment, for me anyway, total disarray. Most of my hobby time is spent packaging stuff up and sending it off.
Yeah, I mean, your approach has been to just get rid.
It's quite extreme.
It is.
Kind of the way I do lots of things.
I can't do that.
No.
I can't do it.
But then I can only assume that you are more able to cope with the idea in your head that you might not paint everything you have.
Yeah.
Because I can.
Mine aren't really necessarily models. I consider them as an extended bits box. So I've picked up so many random things, so many sprues of this or that or the other. And I don't store it on the sprue. I gave that up a long time ago because...
Well, then you'd need a warehouse.
So I take it off the sprue and put it in little zip seal bags, and it goes in a kind of extended bits box. So, and I think that there has been times where that benefits me massively, but it's a bit of a weird thing because I couldn't even fathom selling all of that off.
I think part of it for me is when we bought this house a few years, like 5 years ago, I sold a bunch of stuff then.
Yeah.
And we used that to put a new kitchen in to give an indication of quite how crazy that was. But that meant that a lot of that collecting stuff and stuff that meant a lot to me went then. Yeah. And now I'm almost like I've gone the other way because Well,
we've both been playing long enough that some of those models are worth it.
I know they are, but it's not. I'm just like I cannot re-engage with the inner collector that wants all those old things because I've got rid of so many, and looking back on that would break my heart. Yeah, so now I'm committing to being the gamer who has stuff that's actually usable and I can play with. And this, I said to Jim earlier, it's not about selling everything because not everything, but a load of stuff because I don't want to do the hobby, it doesn't engage me and I want some money back. No. This money is going in a pot, which is the hobby pot. And so it will just be about getting stuff that's more relevant and trying, and I'm sure we will be laughing about this in a few episodes' time, to be in a place where stuff that I buy, I engage with and it gets done. And I get some use out of it, and I get the maximum value out of it, even if that means that certain things I buy and they're painted.
By somebody else.
Yeah, painted by somebody else. Because I would rather I've got to this place where I would rather have one tactical squad that's painted and I can use than 5 that are not painted and not being used.
Yeah.
And that's not even about not enjoying painting. That is time. Purely time. Because I love painting more than I ever have now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think,
and if you'd, sorry, I do this a lot, but I'm just cutting in.
Yeah, no, you do.
Me again. If you had asked me, I don't know, 4 years ago maybe, about commission painting, I'd have been like, I don't get it. I don't get commission painting because that's not the hobby. That's ridiculous. In fact, I was almost, and I look back now and I think, what an idiot.
You can spend, if you think about my collection, I've got all of the starters kits, and with the starters kits, because a whole bunch of stuff that I would do if I had time. Nurgle, for example, is a really good one. I'm going to get my teeth into the Primaris. That will take me months, I should think, to finish all of that lot. Or maybe even if it's just a month. The Nurgle are going to get put to one side. But when I think about how I want my collection to be, I want to be able to have people over to play a game and then not have to bring everything. Like Alexander or someone like that can come in and go, oh, I've got a bunch of chaos. And they're on a box, and they're put together, they're all cleaned up, but you wouldn't enjoy painting or playing with that plastic model. Whereas I think that there's a huge area for a commission painter to step in and paint all of that stuff that you're not going to have time to do, but is, you know, something you'd like to have as a general collection. I think,
so I have played games when I did the hobby weekend, I played games with models that weren't painted, and I wouldn't say I didn't enjoy those games.
No, but
they're not my aspiration.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I come away from working in Games Workshop with is a need to have a nicely done board with a nicely done army on it, because once you've played a game that isn't on a rug on the floor with piles of books as your hills and polystyrene crap as your fortifications, it's very difficult to go back. It really is. And you start looking for other ways to make it easier for yourself. And those pre-painted scenery stuff like Foreground, or the ones we were looking at with Jim tonight, which will come up later in the interview. I look at those sort of things now and think, brilliant, I can buy that and put it together and it's done. And I don't need to think about it. Which goes back to like our previous conversation about the Mechanicum sector. It's fantastic models, but I would not want to be in the position of, say, Hendy Badger with his massive table of Mechanicum stuff, because I'd want to do all the stuff to it. I'd want to paint all the little bits, or at least a lot of it, and I'd want to weather it, and I'd want to put posters on it. I'd want to chevrons and all that stuff. But you've got to make a choice between getting it out and on the table or not.
Well, yeah, you compromise, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah.
And a lot, it's really good to try and understand what you want from the hobby when you're going to make those decisions.
Yeah.
And then you ultimately have to say what's more important.
Yeah.
Isn't it, really? What's more important to me? I was the most productive with my hobby. My Ultramarine army was coming out at such a rate. You know, every week I was finishing a unit. That was how I was approaching it. And the reason was I would get up in the morning half an hour earlier than I needed to and do some painting. And I would go to bed, or Harriet would go to bed, and then I would go to bed like half an hour later, because I would do a bit of painting. And then in between that, I would do, you know, a couple of hours. I'd have a hobby evening, as it were, and do some painting. So, but you can't, it's much harder to do that if you don't have a setup.
Yeah.
And if you don't think about it first and make sure the stuff's there, even simple things. And I know it sounds mental, and I suppose it is probably, but
nothing you say sounds mental, dude. It's all completely sane.
At the end of a hobby session, a painting session, I will take my water, clean it out, put fresh water in, and put it back on my desk, ready for the next session. Because it's one less barrier.
I'll just paint with the dirty water.
Yeah, but you can, and you still paint nicer than me, so whatever. Get out.
I think Tommy was talking about a chap who he knows up in Manchester, who has a massive hobby turnout, because we were talking about painting large armies and painting well quickly. And actually we got on to talking about dry brushing and how it has been viewed for a long time as being a kind of basic level technique. Well, he showed me some pictures of his Space Wolf vehicles, which he dry brushed, and they're just stunning. They look like they're airbrushed, because he's taken dry brushing to a pro level. And I think that's really key, because this guy is churning out stuff, and he only paints for 15 minutes in the morning with a cup of coffee. Every day, 15 minutes, every single day, like clockwork, as part of his morning routine. And I think that is the key. And I know this is probably a weird hobby section because we normally talk about what we've done, and what we're really doing is philosophizing on the hobby in general a bit. But I think that consistency, that's where you get results. And your Space Marine army parallels to my Iron Snakes. When I was the most productive at painting was when I was studying hard for my exams in university. I was using painting in small blocks, 15, 20-minute chunks, to break up the the misery of studying for 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't study for 5 hours a day and focus on all of that medical stuff that I needed to know without having my brain go to a different place, reset, so I could come back and go, right, new topic.
And that's interesting you say that, because the last couple of weeks, or maybe month, where I've been on this sort of sorting everything out, I've been getting properly wound up because I've not had any of that time where I take my brain out of normality and pop it into I'm doing some painting. Yeah. It's incredible how therapeutic sitting down and doing some painting. It's almost meditating. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
it's getting deep now.
It is getting deep.
Interestingly, 91 hours and 91 and a quarter hours a year, 15 minutes a day.
That's not bad.
It's quite a lot, isn't it? That's like nearly 4 days.
Yeah.
Solid.
Yeah, you could turn out quite a lot.
Yeah.
Especially using the techniques that it appeared like he was using. He was, really churning it out. But I think one of the things that amazes me, thinking about, my hobby area is effectively a shed in the garden. And it's the storage is just random bookshelves that I've gathered over the years. But loads of people post their hobby things. I mean, it's like an almost monthly kind of topic, isn't it? Post your hobby areas. Some people's hobby areas are phenomenal. But the ones that really intrigue me are the ones that they clearly don't have a lot of room, and what they manage to achieve in that amount of room, like literally a painting station under the stairs, like a Harry Potter painting desk. And that for me is really exciting because that's making it work. That's genuinely thinking about the hobby and how they can achieve it. And actually those areas look really cozy. I'd probably enjoy painting.
I know, like when we first moved here, I had my painting desk in the corner of the lounge, just wedged in a corner. And that was quite nice because I could sit and paint while Harriet watched Strictly Come Dancing.
Yeah.
Although I didn't get a lot done because I ended up watching Strictly Come Dancing, but these things happen. And Call the Midwife. And then I watched Call the Midwife, and that was a right pain. Because although it's wonderful, because now I got Joshua, that's what it led to, and now I don't have any time. But it's very worthwhile, obviously. I'm just popping that in, because just in case Harriet's listening to this section.
Yeah.
I can see the look. Ben, can you talk? Because I'm digging a hole.
I'm letting you dig, mate. I'm saying, how you doing? Should we throw some sandbags down there? And I really do enjoy painting with my family around because the kids get involved. I painted the kitchen table a few times, but then I irritate Jo because I've got the cable running across for the light, and then I've got another cable running across for the hairdryer, and she nearly punches me because she trips over one cable or the other.
And that's just when you're doing your hair.
That's just when I'm doing my hair, yeah. Absolutely. So what I'm looking forward to doing next, let's think about what once because we're both sorting out our hobby areas. It's been a bit of a crazy couple of weeks. Next thing for me is a mixture of the Necromunda gangs and the Shadespire stuff. I want to get the Shadespire warbands done. Really, I'm probably equally as excited about the Skelly Bobs as I am with the Escher. Can't wait to get myself stuck into the Escher.
So it's interesting, as a linked in with this kind of what do you want from the hobby. So I've ordered my copy of Necromunda.
Yeah.
And I freaked out not long after because I was like, oh, when am I going to paint this? So, you very kindly offered to paint a unit for me for Christmas.
I don't know what madness put, yeah.
But it was very kind of you.
Yeah.
And so I've chosen the Goliaths from that. I've had a chat with Tom, and he wants to get involved with Necromunda, but he doesn't want to buy into the whole thing. So he is actually going to purchase the Escher. So the Escher will be his from my box.
All right, yeah.
And then I'm going to go out there and do the most challenging thing, which is paint that terrain with all the dry brushing.
Which terrain?
The terrain that comes in the box.
Oh,
like the bulkheads.
The small amount of terrain.
Yeah. Hey.
Don't stress yourself out about it. Have you finished your corn?
No.
God, hell, man.
No, I've not finished the corn. That's what I want to do when I get set up. I want to get the last bits of that done.
Yeah, that
really need to. Well, I've actually sent the Bloodthirster 60 Bloodletters, 17 Fleshhounds, and Karanak are all with a commission painter right now.
Oh, that's
being painted. Because that's a massive blob of just red, which I was like... Of heresy. I realise I'm a corn player who's saying, like, I can't face paint in all this red.
No, you're a corn player who doesn't like painting red. Yeah, the painted picture is sat next to me in a corn hoodie.
Yeah.
With his blazing red hair, grinning about it.
Woo! Woo! I'm very excited. So those are going to get done.
Jumper, man, just to counteract this. It's like
you do, but the thing is, you wouldn't want to be seen in one of them, would you? Really?
Yeah, definitely.
So anyway, the demons are going to get done, and then I've just got about 4 vehicles to do.
I found a little unit of the old bloodletters the other day.
Did you?
Yeah, with the big, massive muscled ones with the massive swords. I actually thought it'd be quite fun to paint them.
Axes they've got, haven't they?
Axes, yes, they do. Yeah. They're quite good fun.
So, yeah.
So that's a plan.
So that's a plan. Because I'm not that far off getting the corn finished.
Well, what are you going to do when you finish your corn, Army?
No, go.
Oh. Okay, yeah, that's not unexpected. Being honest. Okay, yeah. I'm
going to finish my salamanders for heresy first.
Oh, mate, don't even get me started on heresy. I'd love to sit down and paint a heresy army of wolves. I mean, you know I would.
Yeah, because you're absolutely in love with the new releases.
Yeah. How salty can we get on the... I am not in love with the new releases at all. I'm very disappointed with the Forge World one so far. I'm going to have to see them in person before I make my mind up, but when you compare them to... Even within the same range, I'm building up to this, right? But even within the same range, if you look at like the fur on Lehman Russ compared to the fur on those Magyar, which is Varangian Guard effectively, but if you look at the difference between the two, it is like the difference between me sculpting and Tommy sculpting. It's ridiculous. It's so poor. But I will judge it when I see it in person. And there are other elements I do like. Some of their faces are pretty cool. And I like the knotwork on their shoulder pads. But other than those, which I've been waiting for years and been disappointed by, I like the Space Wolves in the 30k. I really do. I like the grey armour. I like the feel of the army. I like the fact that Russ is there leading forward. I'm really keen to do them. But I've got to get the 40k ones done first. Or to a point where I can then move on to the 30k ones, get that to an army size. But what's really catching my attention at the moment, what I really want to get stuck into, is getting Age of Sigmar painted. Which is really interesting, because, and we'll probably touch on this a little bit later, but I didn't have the inspiration to paint Warhammer Fantasy Battle. I did when I first started collecting, and I painted an elf army, which has all been stripped back now because it was so shocking. And I'm a bit sad that some of it has gone to posterity without being photographed. But I think I lost the love for wanting to collect an army working in Games Workshop, because trying to get the Warhammer Fantasy Battle rules across to beginners cost me years of my life.
Yeah, and it's important to bear in mind as well that you mainly did Sunday Beginners.
I did.
Didn't you?
I did Sunday Beginners and Painting Night and a couple of other release Saturdays and stuff. And I really struggled with Warhammer Fantasy Battle. I struggled because people were argumentative about it in the store. If I gave people a setup to play 40k, there wasn't normally an argument. If they set up and played Fantasy Battle, typically there was some tension. So I got put off painting the models. I collected a ton of them, but I never really got stuck into painting them. Now going through my collections, I'm like, oh yeah, I want to paint these and those and those and these and these, and I want an order army. So I think that's where, at the moment, the thing that's really inspired me, and like I was talking to you earlier, a guy on a square base gets lost in a unit. A guy on a round base is an individual. He is an individual, and he can be treated and painted as an individual. And I think that's another key thing that's caught my attention with it. But we can talk about a little bit about that later.
Yep. Yeah. So, but I think it is important that right at the end there, so we've talked about changes we're making, not a lot of hobby done, but there's definitely some plans and excitement. Yeah, a bit of philosophizing. There's definitely some excitement about what's to come next, isn't there? So when we've got everything sorted.
I feel like it's a spring clean.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Really excited. Cool.
So, guys, thank you for joining us on the quite messy, untidy, crazy-looking hobby desk. So, make sure you grab yourself some refreshments before we dive into the Galaxy of War.
See you in a bit.
Welcome, listeners, to the grim and dark future of my living room. No, to the drop pod on our sofa. Go into war. Come on, you cultists. I'm shouting at them because we're going to get them, man.
All right, yeah.
Don't worry. It's not like I'm not egging them on.
It sounds like the cultists that landed on Fenris on the Siege of the Fang and then just got wiped out piecemeal by the...
So I'm currently listening to Guardians of the Emperor.
Oh, I really want to listen to that.
Yeah, so, yeah. Korn. Yeah.
Are they in that, are they?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. How can a book about the custodians have Korn in it?
And it's set on Terra as well. Think
is this
about
with
that.
the Korn invading Terra?
Oh, they just bursted everywhere, swinging amazing. Anyway.
How hard do they get slapped by the custodians?
I've not listened to that bit yet.
Backhanded out the door.
Yeah, so, Anyway.
This is a mental segment because tomorrow we're going to be playing in Autumn Tides and we're going to be chatting to a bunch of people there. So we're going to have those chats later on in the segment. But we have been asked by Jim to talk about our armies, or the fluff behind our armies, on the podcast. There is an incentive to do this because it earns us some points.
So basically what you've got to do is put in an email your fluff before midnight on the day before.
Are we before midnight? Oh, let me just check.
No one will know. But anyway...
It's 12 minutes past 12.
Because Ben didn't read the pack...
That's true, I did not read the pack.
You did not read the pack. And I also didn't really read the pack very much. And just got excited.
The key bits.
We were as organised as often we are.
Yeah.
We haven't written our fluff. So we have committed to talk about our fluff.
Should we do each other's?
Okay.
I'll do yours. And then you can do mine. So Dan's army is a bunch of gibbering idiots with a general IQ of about 15 who have decided to go to war because they got bored and couldn't find anywhere else to go. Rocked up to the Autumn Tides by accident and then saw some people and thought, I'm going to have a go, and ran across the battlefield. Tripped over, fell on their faces, and that was the end. Sound about right?
Yeah, that's fairly accurate, actually.
Is it? Okay, yeah, good.
Yeah. Your army?
You're good.
Yeah, well, yeah. So Ben's army are a mighty brotherhood of space marines. So those of you that have listened to Dan Abnett's or read Dan Abnett's Brothers of the Snake, they are absolutely flipping awesome. So the Iron Snakes are... What are they descended from? Are they Ultramarine?
Yeah, it's only just
come out. So Ultramarine descended.
Second founding.
They have quite a high propensity for apothecaries.
One in every squad. Which is pretty cool. And they fight like a flipping phalanx against orcs. And it is amazing. And their serfs stick spears in behind them. And then reload the guns.
Yeah, so, honestly, they are a silver tide of utter badass.
I feel bad now.
Good, because that was the idea. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, then, essentially, that's what it is. So, my Iron Snake army is based around Pryad, that squad. So I have Pryad as a model, and the squad is in there, marked out. Damocles squad, and the whole army is constructed around that. And yeah, they have a apothecary in every unit. So I've represented that by using the Iron Hands special rule for Flesh is Weak. And I've got a fair few tanks and heavy stuff in there. So I've got a bike squad, a tank squad, a Land Raider and a Predator. Because I know in the books they come across as mainly infantry based. Because they're on a small scale, but I think I've used the tanks to give a balance because I've got about half the army is infantry, half the army is vehicle. And I got a few Terminators stuck in there for to represent the first company because there's a lovely dynamic in the book where Pryad and the captain of the first company have a kind of weird conversation where the captain of the first company is like, "Who's this guy?" And then the Dreadnought's like, "Well, you should know who that is. That's Pryad, the sergeant of Damocles, the Notable Squad." And it's a bit of a slapdown. So that captain is in there as my first, actually leading the army. Because I envisioned that after that sort of campaign, they would start to work or know each other a bit better and work together more often. So he's in there. Fluff-wise, they're hunting your Chaos Warband. That's how I've kind of decided it. Because they're very calculated Space Marine chapter. So there's a story in the Bad Out Wars where they go to rescue a colony from the Dark Elder. I don't know if you read this one. And they let the Dark Elder attack 2 more times before they react and spring an ambush to lull them into a full sense of security, so that they can completely wipe them out rather than any getaway. So they're quite calculating and cold, and they hunt. They come across as quite an army that's dedicated to hunting down a warband and eliminating them when they're moving on. So that's the theme of my army. A fast mobile hunting squad with the apothecaries. And every one of my squads has got a modelled apothecary. So your Khorne army, go for it.
That's cool. So I've been thinking about the background of my Khorne army recently anyway, because of the event we're going to go to in January, the Tenebris event.
Yeah.
So the Tenebris event is largely based around Nurgle. So I wanted to think about why were my Khorne army there? What were they doing? The idea is that
I've just realised that Khorne and Nurgle... I've just remembered that Khorne and Nurgle have that rivalry.
Well, they do, but only in the same way as all Chaos Gods. They're the main rival of Khorne is Slaanesh.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Not Nurgle?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, carry on. Yeah.
So, anyway, the idea is that my Khorne Lord, and I have to be honest, I'm not great with names, coming up with names, so I'm still struggling. So any suggestions would be great.
Ooh, name Dan's Khorne Lord.
And if... I know that's going to be a barrage of ridiculousness, isn't it?
Like, no, brilliant. Bring it on.
Captain slapped by a space wolf or something. That's all it's going to be.
That is the best name ever. Translate that into Latin, you're done.
But my Khorne Lord is based, the conversion is based on Corgus Cull from Age of Sigmar, because my idea is I want it to come through. So I'm thinking something Cull, but I don't want it just to be Corgus Cull. So I'm thinking something Cull. So anyway, his warband, essentially become, they're part of the World Eaters, anyway, who, as we know, they go to the Siege of Terror, they leave the Siege of Terror, they get stuck in the warp, becalmed in the warp, they start to become overcome by warp-borne disease, they're dying off, they're like, flipping heck, this is ridiculous. So Typhus rocks up and says, I'll get you out of here, but you flipping owe me. And so Typhus leads them out. They carry on crusading. So years later, the Tenebris thing kicks off. So there are plagues bursting out all over the Tenebris system, but there's a planet, an ice planet, where the plagues won't take hold because it's so flipping cold, the plagues can't take hold. So the reason that the planet is an ice planet is it's a nuclear winter. So they destroy their own planet to protect themselves against all these plagues, yeah? So they've destroyed their own planet. They're like, yeah, we protect ourselves. And then out of the ice and the snow just pour thousands of red demons and my warband, essentially, who are repaying that debt to Typhus. And then the heat from the fury of their battle starts to melt the snows, and then the Nurgle come, and then it all goes really bad.
Oh, okay. So that's our background, and hopefully now we'll leave it here, because tomorrow we're going to be on scene at the tournament and talking to people about their awesome armies.
Absolutely. Okay, hi guys, Dan here from the 2P's. So as you guys know, we're at the Autumn Tides today. I've just played Adam and his Ultramarine force. To say he's done well would be an understatement, Adam, you reckon?
Yeah, well, I think my army's probably a bit more competitive than your one, which is a very nice fluffy army. So.
The guys on here will know that mine competitive doesn't go with mine very well. So
right, okay.
I will do. But no, you had a good list. So couldn't take Gilliman because of the rules here.
Nope.
So you went with a Chapter Master?
Yeah, Chapter Master on a bike. So 3 command points before the game, and he gets to give everyone a re-roll bubble within 6 inches, basically. So like a little mini Gilliman.
Including his friend the Spartan.
Yeah, the Spartan is
that is a seriously powerful piece of equipment.
8 gas cannons is going to do some damage, as long as it can see things.
Yes, that is true.
Where it was completely wasted.
Yeah, but I think that was more because you'd killed a lot of my stuff.
Yeah,
I did feel bad for inconveniencing you, but
that's okay. Yeah, it seems like quite a few times with any army where you cast loads and you've got a lot of firepower, things that are in the open die, and you end up having lots of armies crowded behind bits of terrain. So that's the disadvantage. You need to have some ability.
And you mentioned you've only been playing for about a year?
Yeah, not very long.
No.
I was originally into fantasy, but my friend wanted to play 40k, so started playing that.
Did you go straight in with the Ultramarines?
No, actually, I really liked the Grey Knights because I just knew they were the most elite thing from when I used to play when I was about 16.
Yeah.
But after playing with them in 7th for a while and getting frustrated at their lack of firepower, and then Gilliman came out.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'll try them instead.
Yeah, I'll just give it a go.
that seems pretty good, the Ultramarines, and obviously they get all the toys as well. So I wanted to have all the big guns and stuff rather than just. The Grey Knights are mostly a fighting force, close combat.
So I should admit at this point that it was 10 points to 1 in your favour. So any particular highlights?
Oh, particular highlights is my sergeant.
I can think of one, yeah.
So I had a tactical squad with last cannon, and a sergeant had a chainsword, and they jumped out with Storm Raven, and they charged some of your berserkers because I got a point for charging them. So
yeah, it was good actually because it was a Space Marine one as well, wasn't it? So you get an extra point because it's tactical escalation.
Oh yeah, tactical escalation. I chose all the Space Marine type tactical objectives to get the extra point. But he charged in there, all his mates died, and he basically bitch slapped your berserkers and they ran away.
2 of them ran away from a guy with a chainsaw, didn't they? And then I had to attack him with 16 bloodletters to kill him off.
Yeah, you summoned them around him. He was having a bad day at that point.
So yeah. And my one point, though, I am going to point out was Slay the Warlord, which my Corn Lord managed to get. So
I think with my chapter master, everything was going quite well. He was one of the only 2 units left on the board. I thought I'd charge him, get the last wound off. Didn't get the last wound off, and learnt that Corn HQs are pretty good in close combat.
Yeah, he's not bad. You were unfortunate, though, because your Spartan split its fire, didn't it? And you had some bad rolls. There was a particular point at the table, wasn't there? Where everything you rolled in that area just seemed to be bad dice rolls.
Oh yeah, down the far end of the table. I got so many 1s and 2s there, it was pretty unreal.
It was crazy. Cool. Well, thanks for chatting to me, dude. Good luck for the rest of the tournament.
Mate. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was ace. So we've shared details, so hopefully in the future I got some photos, so I'll stick those on Facebook, guys. We'll play some more games. Good luck. Cool. Cheers, man. Right guys, I'm back. This time I've got Lloyd with me, so we've just played our game. Really great game, really appreciate it. So the first thing I need to say, Lloyd does wargaming right. So the reason for that, I say that, is because we just got to the point where we knew the writing was on the wall. Lloyd had definitely got the victory 7 points to 3, and he said, shall we just wrap up? And promptly cracked out a thermos flask and offered me a cup of tea, and when we sat back and started talking about gaming over a cup of tea, which is fantastic. So Ben has just come upstairs as well.
So which version of Heretic lost?
Well, the Corn Force is lost.
It's a shame, though.
So Lloyd, obviously you got your Thousand Suns in front of you. Now you mentioned to me you haven't been gaming for very long, have you?
No, I think that was my 8th game, and that's not just of 8th edition, that is of 40k altogether. So yeah, bit of fresh blood.
Good, yeah. And how are you finding it?
It's a learning curve. It's certainly a learning curve. There's a lot to remember, but thoroughly enjoyable. Faced some great opponents today. Really good, really good.
Yeah. Tactical excellence.
Yeah. They've been honourable.
So how come you went with Tzeentch? Because did you say it's not what you started with, or was it what you started with?
Do you know what? I started with Age of Sigmar.
Right.
I actually thought I'd make an Age of Sigmar army. It turns out in the where I'm from, Swindon, it seemed to be more 40k played. I already had some Zangors, so I just thought I'd roll with it, but just got totally hooked on the Thousand Suns. Beautiful models, love blue, love the lore behind them. Yeah, hooked on them now.
Don't look at me like that.
So Ben's massive Space Wolf fan. So and they
right, he's the enemy.
Yes, he is.
No, you're the enemy.
So in the game, play pretty well. Very powerful psychic stuff. Any high points in the game for you?
It's got to be when your warlord hit my rhino with his big axe, managed to make it explode, and killed himself.
Yeah,
it's got to be the high point. It wasn't anything I did particularly skillful, but yeah, that was probably my favourite point.
It was very
played
funny.
8 games.
Yes.
Have you been painting for that short amount of time? Because that army is stunning, if that's true.
Again, it's been a steep learning curve with that, and I've been properly burying my head in books and YouTube. Duncan videos are fantastic. I did do a touch of painting when I was younger, when I was about 15, so it's got to be about 17 years ago now. Never played when I was younger, I just bought a few models and painted them then. But I am an art student, so I like to think I've got a bit of knowledge behind me anyway.
That's a bit like when I watch Strictly Come Dancing, and the people are good that are actually like musicians and dancers already, because they've already done a bit of dancing. So Lloyd's done a bit of painting.
Yeah, I did my time at uni doing the art, and I think it helped a bit.
Yeah, we always like to reference back to me watching something ridiculous on telly.
It was Justin Bieber last week. So which is your favourite model, dude?
I love the Scarab Occult Terminators. Love them. That mix, well, it's not really, they're the Egyptian theme, which I do love, the ancient Egyptians, and it's just that little touch in there with the headdresses. Fantastic. And they're simple enough. Like the Exalted Sorcerers, I do love them again, but they're very busy models. They take a bit more time to paint. Zangor's very cool models, I think.
Do you use the Duncan's Guide then for these?
Essentially, yeah. I changed a few of the colours. So instead of using Null, I use Druchii Violet.
Yeah. I said that's on the metalwork, isn't it?
That's on the metalwork as well. Yeah.
So, I really like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good method. So it's the spray in black, spray in gold, wash the whole thing with Druchii Violet, then go in with the blues. And then I wash the blues again with the violet to get a bit of shading in there, then back to the blue.
Yeah, it looks really nice. It unifies nicely, and I know you said you're rebasing into this desert scheme?
It's into the desert scheme. Yeah, I had this sort of muddy one first, but it's a colour wheel as well. So if you look up on the colour wheel, the contrasting colours and the desert sort of tan just goes better with the blue. It's close.
I have a colour wheel. It looks really cool actually, hanging on the wall. Sometimes I use it. Yeah, I have used it. Yeah, at times. No, that's ace. And so, what's next then for the army?
I'm at a good place with it, and as a new player, I'm trying to keep it simple, not overload myself with new models and new rules. So I'm still learning exactly what they all can do, what I have already. But I think if I was to get something else, I might go for a Helldrake. Something fast and fly across the board, maybe just as a distraction to distract other people, I think. And maybe a few more flamers. I've got the rubrics, they've all got the bolters. I'd like to try out flamers.
They are savage. Rapid fire 2.
Yes.
Oh my days, that is a lot of dice.
Yeah, they were great at the beginning of the game. They took out a lot of bloodletters.
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
really
yeah,
good.
They were just unfortunate to get pounced on, weren't they? In the end, but they did
it's
have
gonna
a lot of firepower.
though, isn't it?
Well, that's the goal. Should happen anyway. It doesn't always get there. Well, Lloyd, it was a great game. Really, really fortunate to meet you, see your army. It's really awesome. So you've kindly let me take some photos. I'll get them up, and hopefully we'll meet again, game again at some point.
Awesome, I'd love to. Yeah,
cheers, man.
Very much.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, dude.
Hi guys, so we are back from our adventures, I would say, down to the autumn tides. How did you find it, Ben?
I thought it was great, mate.
It was good fun,
Really
wasn't it?
enjoyed that. Yeah. Nice first tournament, I think.
Yeah, you had a great big smile on by the end, which was pretty cool, because it had been quite a busy day, hadn't it? So still smiling at the end?
Oh, I was knackered. The chap I played in my last game, Matt, was an absolute legend, so it made it much easier to get through. But by the third game, I was a bit knackered, especially as we'd been up till 1 o'clock recording the night before. So yeah, all well organised. Yeah, we should name this podcast today, this episode, Well Organised.
Yeah, absolutely. So 41 people at the event, and you came at 26th.
I'm not entirely sure how that happened.
Well, pure tactical genius, perhaps?
I don't think so. I got thumped in 2 of my games.
But at least you didn't get thumped in all 3 of them.
No. Who did, though, Dan?
Maybe me.
Yes, but who also got a painting nomination?
Oh, yes, I did get a painting nomination. That was cool.
And totally well deserved, mate. Your army looks fantastic on the table.
Yeah, although you've got to catch it quick because it's gone otherwise. There were several points where I tried to claim that I had set up under the table and that wasn't my dead pile. So, for those that are interested in such things, I came 40th out of 41, which was just ridiculous. So embarrassing. Oh,
never mind.
Never mind. Well, to be honest, though, I mean, we've been chatting about it this evening, and I know what I need to add to my army, and I have known for some time. But as per the segment in the hobby desk with regards to where we both are having a bit of a reset at the moment in the hobby, I can't even get to my painting desk at the moment because of the stuff in front of it. So there's no point crying about it. Once I'm all sorted out with all that stuff, I can get back to it, add in a few key units. I want to put a Demon Prince in.
And that Demon Prince would have really helped you against that chap with his little fortress of hate.
Oh, Adam. Yeah, he had a really good Ultramarine force, castled up, lots of firepower coming out, and I just didn't have the speed or durability really to get in there.
No.
Nice thing with the Demon Prince is it's slightly smaller profile, would have been able to leap through terrain a bit. And a Helldrake, I want to put one of those in as well. Yeah. Basically, just have a bit more control over the battlefield. And there was a new type of card, I'd not seen it before, the primary objective or something like that.
Yes.
And it was where basically only your commander is able to carry it out. And because my warlord is a Terminator who moves 5 inches a turn, in my second and third battle, I think it's called Priority Target Identified, possibly.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
In both of those, I drew that, and then I drew an objective which was about 4 feet away from him.
Yeah.
So I could say, oh, well, that was unfortunate, but equally, I think knowing that card is in there and it's worth 3 points, really, I want to be bringing a HQ choice or a warlord choice to the table who has the ability to move a little bit faster than a Terminator. Well,
and your Demon Prince is a close combat machine, so it would almost certainly deal with anything you point it at.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Lloyd, in my second game, he had a Demon Prince, pretty powerful. Took quite a lot to get rid of him.
He did a lovely job painting that as well.
Yeah, and a really nice conversion with the Lord of Change head on top of it as well.
Yeah,
this was really good. But so definitely would go again, Ben.
Yeah, I loved it. It was great. It was a great atmosphere, great community feel, and awesome to see some of the people who we kind of know through the podcast. But we only got to know because of this, coming up and saying hi and getting to see their armies. It was fantastic to see Ed's army.
Yes, yeah,
really nice. Oh, mate, it's really gorgeous. Especially, it ticks my retro models included box.
Yeah,
which is always important. Yeah, it's fab.
Yeah,
and Jim did a fantastic job of organising it. So yeah, I'll be going back to that one. We're going to look around for a few more. Next one to do is an Age of Sigmar game, I think.
Yeah,
Age of Sigmar tournament.
Do something Age of Sigmar. That would be cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Ah, good. Cool.
Great.
Well, thank you very much, guys. Just a short and sweet, this is what happened from us. Enjoy the rest of the episode.
Hi guys, and welcome back. And we're in the Mortal Realms after a weird 40k segment, a bit different from normal. Really, we want to talk about today in the Mortal Realms is going off the topic of the games we've played and the new releases. I'd quite like to talk about actually the setting, because I think the setting is really interesting. And while I've been going through...
I'm quite passionate about the setting.
Yeah.
Would you believe?
I think it's a weird thing, because Warhammer Fantasy, for me, the setting was fabulous. It was crafted for over a long period of time, and there was a lot of texture to it. There was a lot of depth, and anyone who's known me for long enough in the hobby will hear me say that the best fantasy is grounded in some form of reality.
Yeah, which is why Lord of the Rings is so awesome.
Lord of the Rings, it reverberates back those myths that have come from our own history, from the Dark Ages, the history of the elves and the dwarves. All those things are part of Norse and Saxon history. But also towns and villages and wells and fields and crops.
Well, like life, normal life. Yeah.
That sort of stuff brings a fantasy setting together. And when you're walking through the Shires in Lord of the Rings, when you're walking across the landscape, that is really important and a real big thing. That is present in Warhammer Fantasy Battle. And some of the dioramas that people have made over the years, like that wonderful one on the bridge where the Empire are being ambushed by the Skaven. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. You can really get a sense that there's a normality, like a countryside, or the Bretonnians in the forest, that kind of stuff. And there's a wonderful photograph that Games Workshop did with the knight kneeling, praying with his sword.
Yeah.
And there's the wood elves in the trees. Age of Sigmar, for me, I felt lost a lot of that. And it replaced it with something that Warhammer Fantasy Battle couldn't have, because it dragged itself away from that grounded reality of normal life for a lot of people and put it into if you put some of the things like the god beasts into that, it would have been ridiculous. I felt really incongruous. Age of Sigmar gave you that. You've got people climbing up chains the size of houses. You've got weird sort of stuff like that. And I felt a little bit like, yeah, cool, these great big battles with reborn god or people with bits of Sigmar's energy in them, and that's all great. But what for me I was missing was that normality. And the more I read about the background, the more I realised that actually a lot of that was in the Realm of Heavens, the last city. What I've been really excited about over the last couple of releases is that normality is coming back. Those cities have now really stamped a kind of character into some places in the Mortal Realms. I don't know if do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you get the stories about like how the Dragon Orders sally out from their town on a kind of weekly or daily basis to push back the beasts from the walls. That kind of stuff is really cool. But then we were talking earlier, and it really occurred to me, it has occurred to me over the last couple of weeks, that we have no idea how big the Mortal Realms are.
So we were discussing that because, we'll talk about it later in Into the Wilds, but a really, 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 really awesome Wizards Tower has come out from Tabletop World.
Yeah.
And I love it. And it's really cool. Yeah. And I so want it. But what I said to Ben was, well, I don't think it really fits in Age of Sigmar. Probably because of the real looking stonework, I think, is the thing that got me. Yeah. But then your response was, yeah, it does. Like, it didn't even occur to you that it didn't fit.
No, it doesn't.
I certainly. Yeah. So, and that got us on to talking about what are the realms like, didn't it? And you said you've got images of cottages in the middle of nowhere and stuff. And it started to gel with me, and then we talked about the size of the realms, didn't we?
Well, that's how we got onto that. The realm could either be a continent, which you get some fairly good maps in the rule book. There's something like that wonderful map of the is it the Realm of Life?
There is a really good one of the Realm of Life
with the floating islands and
that's Realm, and there's really good Realm of Metal stuff.
Yeah, but how big is that? Is that just a tiny little section? Are you looking like something the size of Wales there, or are we talking about the Realm of Life? Is it a planet?
Wales is the Realm of Life. That is profound.
I'm thinking about size-wise. But what I'm getting at is, if it's a planet, then it will have, or flat Earth theory, is it a big kind of floating disc in some kind of ether? We don't know. But how big is it? Because if it's big, then it will have different cultures across it, in a sense, that are all tied together by the theme of fire or metal or life or whatever. But it's not beyond the realm of possibility that there is a whole area that looks very much like the kind of medieval buildings.
Yeah, absolutely. So my feeling on the Mortal Realms is that I don't think we can actually comprehend what they're like. They're so out there. They don't conform They're very they're magic. They are steeped in magic at their core. They are generated from magic, and so they're not round like a planet. They're not flat like we would know. They can be whatever you want, and that's what's exciting. And like you say, the Warhammer World type setting that people enjoy can exist within the Mortal Realms, no problem. But so can a load of stuff that couldn't exist in the Warhammer World setting. Not to mention the Warhammer World setting is still written down.
And it's still going. I mean,
it's still
making the computer games. The Warhammer Fantasy Battle roleplay is going as strong as it ever has done. I'm not expecting to see the end of that.
But it's just so exciting, the idea of the realms, because there's so much they can explore.
Yeah, and I think that's the key to it. Because we were talking earlier, and Alexander sent me a fantastic article on about why 40k did what 40k did, why the Primaris had to happen, because they'd literally done everything that you could possibly imagine for the Space Marines. They needed to do something new, and they chose that route, and that's a whole other topic. But if you think about it from the Age of Sigmar setting, that's exactly what happened. Warhammer Fantasy Battle, that universe had reached its end point. How many times can you Groundhog Day the last 1 minute? It's really difficult. There's nothing new in that. The only way, and we've talked to that, is by exploring other parts of the Warhammer world. And when you look at the Warhammer world on the map, it's a weird kind of copy of our planet itself. And when you start heading into other areas, you start to really... It kind of becomes a bit of a cliche.
Yeah.
What is Nippon going to look like? Well, it's going to look like samurais. But no one wants to see that, because that exists. If I wanted to play a samurai game, I'd play a samurai game. And I think they'd have walked a weird kind of, well, it has to look a bit Japanese, or doesn't it? Or what are we going to do with this? I can completely understand when they went, sack it, let's start from scratch. We can then have everything that we want to. We can have flying dwarves on floating ships. We can have fire drive.
Interestingly, I just thought I'd cut in again there.
That's so unusual for you, man.
But so since we had the conversation earlier, the image has started forming in my head of that Wizard's Tower, which we'll get some pictures of because I just need to talk about it. But on a floating island.
Yeah. I knew you were going to go there.
Up in the air, floating, and then have other floating islands with like a couple of cottages on. So basically, imagine a small village plus Wizard's Tower in the fantasy realm, Warhammer Fantasy, but torn out of the earth and floating on the winds of magic that are present in the Mortal Realms, with cool little bridges between it.
Or floaty fly ships. If the dwarves can have fly ships.
But that's right. Yeah, but the dwarves then can be like the trading dudes that come and bring them the bread. So then I can get some of them floating dwarves. But how cool would that be? And have it all floating. Oh, and have like realm gates buried in the bottom. Oh, mate. So really, it's like the fantasy realm, but on steroids, isn't it? It's just flipping awesome.
Well, it can be that, but it can also just be a village on the flat ground. And that's, for me, what I love about it. It's what I'm starting to love more about it. But it
could be a village on the flat ground that gets torn out and floats up into islands.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Oh, that's exciting, isn't it? And then do some like green coloured storm car. Oh man, this is going to be amazing.
I think you've just built your next board, haven't you?
Oh, I've talked about floating islands all the time. I'd build my own house on a floating island if it was possible. Maybe I'll get like a massive dirigible and just build it on the top of that.
I've loved the idea of floating islands or cities since the back of the 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons book. There's one on the back of that, and I was like, that is awesome. So it's a cool concept. But I think for me, what I'm excited about coming up is this idea or this hint that there's going to be Dark Oath as an army. Well, if Dark Oath come as an army, then you start to explore. Because one of the things I loved about, and I think we commented on this in the last podcast, but one of the things I loved about, or could get on board with the Warhammer Fantasy Chaos, is that idea of normality about it. But these people were tribesmen living in a way or near a place where the two were tangibly linked. You couldn't tear them apart and have Chaos and them separately. They were so intertwined that it was part of their culture. Well, that's what the Dark Oath are. The Dark Oath is starting to now explore how does a human think that this madness is a sensible thing?
Mm.
Because if you look at the mortal realms, there's no way that a sensible human being is going to think that one way is better than the other, because chaos will eventually end up being a complete and utter hellish nightmare. And you either are strong enough to survive that or you're not. Well, if you're strong, great, but what I'm looking for is how that all mixes together in a pot. So you have the Dark Oath and see how they culturally sort of come about. I'm really excited about that, because to me that starts to add texture. And like I said, texture and normality is what makes fantasy investable in my mind. You're going to cut in on me.
Can I talk now?
You stuck your hand up.
I'm so excited though, because so those Dark Oath could be living in my village, which is floating, right? But because it's a chaos realm, the earth underneath can be like full of bunches of skulls and stuff. Yeah. It's going to be so good. And you know those vines they've started selling, and the bracken.
You don't have many skulls there. Only like the 400,000 that you bought in those boxes.
Yeah. Oh man, but
there's that weird head in those skull boxes. Have you noticed? There's a skull in there of something that they haven't made yet. I reckon that'll be part of the Dark Oath.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Ah.
That's got like 4 eyes, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Like a big dragon thing. I'm thinking that'll be part of the Dark Oath. Because I'm thinking that there's going to be a box set sometime, probably first half of next year. That's what I'm expecting. But as in a box set, I mean, Age of Sigmar 2nd edition, so Warhammer Fantasy, what would that be? 10th edition?
Yeah, I don't think
we'll
see editions anymore.
No, that's an interesting thought in its own right.
I don't think we'll see editions anymore, because I think that the core Age of Sigmar rules, I think what you'll see, because you've got the General's Handbook now, which is going to roll each year.
Yeah.
Which does the updates and stuff. I think you have to think about what the starter set or the box set is. So, Blight War, that's the sort of thing I think we'll see. Things that contain some models that exist with some new stuff. Because they've worked quite hard to create the introduction to Age of Sigmar boxes, all that build up to the big Age of Sigmar box.
Well, that's what I think we'll see a whole new set of.
I'm not convinced, because why?
Well, how long they will eventually do that.
But as a company, though, why? Why would you change your thing, which is the hook for the new person that knows nothing? Only, I suppose, if you improve your technology and you want to create new models.
Well, that's exactly why. Because you've got every generation of each edition has been marked by a new box set, and that is the hook that drags people into the hobby.
But I think that they're I just don't think we're going to see that anymore. I don't think they need to keep doing new editions anymore. I think the
they might not call it a new edition, but a re-release of the general box set.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it'd be cool.
Yeah, I think Dark Earth Forces, maybe the more lightly armed hunter version of
the only thing I can see them doing that for at the moment is obviously with we discussed very briefly, because we know it's a topic to be careful that the Dark Oath is a female miniature, and that they may look to do a starter set that contains a better demographic, like a better better representation, to, for that reason, really, to find more hobbyists across different genders.
I would really like to see that.
Yeah, and I would as well, but we obviously both like to see that for lots of reasons. One of the big ones being
just a range of new models.
Well, new models, but also we both want to see the hobby grow and thrive, and
be able to feel like a place for anyone to play.
Yeah, absolutely.
This hobby is a community.
Yeah,
and I think for me, my favourite thing about this hobby is that it's a community, and that it's to play a game. I have to go and find someone to play, and I think that's a really important part of it. And if you're cutting off half of your population for smoke face, I think it's dark. But like I said, I expect to see some form of box set. I don't think the Dark Oath are going to be a release like, for example, the Caradhran Overlord. I feel that with that logo changing.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier. Yeah,
logos change when you get a new release.
So
from each edition, that's when logos change. When you look at Warhammer Fantasy all the way through the editions, the logo changes when there's a new edition. It doesn't change halfway through. So if we see the Age of Sigmar re-released with a new logo, I think you're going to see a new Stars box set. And I would love that to be the Dark Oath. Because why do you need simple to paint models in your Stars box set? Because the Dark Oath model is nothing like simple. Mind you, you look at the Age of Sigmar box set compared to like the 4th edition one, the models are just infinitely more detailed. Which is quite exciting in some ways, but on the other hand, as a beginner, it's quite challenging, I think.
Yes, but then the Stormcast, the Stormcast are fairly straightforward to canvas.
Yeah, absolutely. I was quite surprised to see, because I hadn't really had a look at the Chaos models in the Age of Sigmar box set. That might surprise you, but I hadn't.
Dude, I know that you lie on the bed at night and just go like pouring Chaos models onto yourself.
That's a very bad scene.
A worrying image, isn't it? But I know that's the truth.
But I got them out because we were talking about, I had those all to paint after the Shadespire ones. They are nice models. They are as good as the Shadespire ones in detail in a lot of ways. So they're not going to be an easy thing for me to knock out. Like I was hoping, but I might sort of change.
They are very cool. Those models in there, really nice
for such a pansy ass unit. It's a lot of detail to put in them.
Do you think this is episode 12 now? I hope people aren't getting bored of this chaos bashing / Space Wolf bashing, because there's many more episodes of it to come.
Well, no, I'm being serious though. They are a pansy ass unit compared to.
Yeah, well, they are when there's like 5 or 10 of them.
That's my point.
When there's 40.
You don't want to paint 40 of those.
Well, I've got 90 upstairs.
Well, that explains a lot.
So that's where I feel like the hobby is crushing me has come from.
Painting corn bloodletters and half-naked mental guys.
Yeah. So some exciting stuff we can explore for terrain as well and world building.
I think world building is...
So we need to get Hammer Hell, don't we? For like the second Warhammer Quest thing.
Yeah, I really want to get that. I really want to get that because I like the role-playing aspect to it. I'm really excited about that. And it's exploring another city. I think that the fact that it's in a city really...
Well, Hammer Hell's the awesome one that's in 2 different realms.
Yeah.
It crosses between... Is it Fire and Life?
I don't know.
I think it's Fire and Life.
But that for me... That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Because I think exploring that underworld, that city, that gives you, that starts to put together that kind of idea of who is there.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And
plus,
also, you need that stuff to be able to gauge, to show off the heroic nature of the characters, don't you?
And to give you a reason to care.
Yeah,
I don't give a monkeys if what are the Stormcast taking back? I felt a little bit like when they were in the box set, the campaign, the first campaign, is it the Realm of Fire? Why do they care about that peninsula? There's nothing to it, but it came across as like a bloodied wasteland with a couple of corn towers on it.
Because I spent a bit of time reading it, and I think what it was is because it was like the Realm of Fire. Really, really good barbecue joints.
Yes.
That's what it was about. Really excellent smoked ribs, sausage, steak.
But if you go
and jacket potatoes, flipping amazing off that peninsula, man. Unbelievable. Yeah. Just wrap it in a bit of armour, bit of squished up armour. Blimmin', spot on.
But if
and you know the Chaos Dudes.
I'm trying to be serious here.
They got all those spikes on, the Chaos Dudes. Do you know what they put on their spikes? Marshmallows.
That is the best image I've had. And I'm like,
it'd be brilliant, wouldn't it?
You need to do that now on the sculpts and marshmallows.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Can we be serious for a sec? Do you reckon?
Yeah. I am being serious.
Very serious.
Yeah.
Stormcast in the city box sets gives me a reason why the Stormcast are there. As kind of sponsoring guardian angels of these enclaves, that if something goes wrong, they will strike from the heavens and beat the snot out of anything that steps up. I love that idea. that they're fully invested in these kind of city building projects. And even the idea that they're part of the kind of social, in a hierarchy, trying to build it and create it and manage it. Yes. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Because I can almost imagine like these people on the walls going, oh no, we're under attack, and what we're going to do is sound the horn and from the sky comes lightning
a horn
bolts.
like Gimli has.
Absolutely.
Helm's Deep.
I think that for me is that's world building right there. The idea that they've got these angels that would literally come down from the heavens. Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I agree.
So there's one more thing I'd like to talk about in the Age of Sigmar section, just quickly to wrap up. If you're into rules and you're into tournament playing, or even just sort of competitive, or even just gaming, I've been listening to a podcast called AOS Shorts. Very short episodes, sort of 15 minutes, and they cover a topic for each episode. Really well produced.
Yeah, you said to me about it, didn't you? And we were listening to one earlier, and I was really impressed actually, and I'll certainly be listening to that. And
his website has got good kind of not FAQ, but kind of crib sheety kind of stuff on it. Really helpful, useful stuff to get you thinking about your army and how you would create it in the right way, and how would you would use this unit and that unit and terrain and all that sorts of stuff. So I would highly recommend AOS Shorts. It's on Podbean and various other places, but it's on Podbean. If you go in there to download our stuff, then it's not too hard to find.
Well, we can get a link.
We'll pop the link up, because I think it's well worth it if you're playing Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's helped me. I kind of have a much better understanding of the rules in the last week. So his catchline, get better faster, it's absolutely on point.
Good. So, get up to Ben's tactical level by listening to AOS Shorts.
Get up to Ben's tactical level.
That's not really a promotion, is it?
That's a demotion.
So guys, thanks for listening to the Mortal Realms. We are going to head into the community now, hear all about Jim and Big and the journey down there. So thanks very much for listening. Grab some refreshment and we'll be back with you soon. Right. Hello guys, Dan from the 2P's. I'm very excited. Next to me I have Ben, has travelled all the way up to Bristol, and we also have Jim from Big, which you'll hear me go on and on about. So, welcome buddy.
Hi guys.
Not really interested in Ben. Hello Ben.
Well, I meet you on a weekly basis, Dan. This is the first time I've met Ben.
Yeah, that is true. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Ben's much more interested now. So, Jim has kindly what time is it now? It's ridiculous.
Gone 10:30.
Yeah, 10:30 in the evening, the day before his big autumn tides that we're coming to, agreed to chat to us about his hobby journey, really, and Big. I've dragged Ben out. He's basically weeping over the time, aren't you?
Well, we've still got the rest of the podcast to do, but yeah.
Cool. So, probably enough of me chatting away. So, dude, tell us about how you got started with this crazy hobby.
Right, so, back in the midst of time in the mid-80s, when I was about 8, I got into...
Before I was born.
Probably.
Okay, just put that out
there. I got into playing D&D with some mates, and at that point I was living just outside Brighton. And I think Games Workshop had... It was 8 or 12 stores countrywide at that point, and they used to sell roleplay stuff, predominantly.
Yeah.
And my dad used to drive me and my mate up there one evening a week, and we would pick up models that we were using for roleplay games.
Mm.
And then when I moved down to Plymouth, about 4 or 5 years later, one of my school teachers had written a historical game, American Civil War ironclads, so the big metal ships.
Yeah.
And we played that a couple of times, and he said, well, if you guys want to do this wargaming thing, there's a club in Plymouth. You should go along to that. So we did, and I started playing 15mm Ancients.
Was that Plymouth Association?
That was Paul.
Yeah. Was it really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That's been around a while.
Yeah.
It has. And so we were playing that, and we looked over one day, and there were some guys playing what was then 4th edition fantasy. I think it'd just come out with the cardboard Grom on his chariot.
And Altharion. Don't forget Altharion, man. Yeah. He's a god.
Yeah.
Ben quite likes elves.
I do.
Yeah, and there was a female character on a griffin thing.
Yeah. Don't ask him about elves in Age of Sigmar.
No. Okay.
He'll be here for some time.
Okay.
He's not lying.
And we kind of looked over and we were kind of like, that's cool. That's like our ancients, but with dragons. So we were like, we'll give that a go. And we cobbled together out of our old role-play miniatures and bits and pieces, most of which were Citadel miniatures, our first armies for Warhammer Fantasy. And then about the same time as that happened, I think Plymouth opened its first Games Workshop as well. So
was Mike running it then? Because he seems to be like part of furniture.
Mike's a lot younger than me.
Is he?
Yeah. No. I'm not completely convinced Mike was... Mike may have been walking by that point. Well, I actually worked for Mike for a brief period of time.
Did you?
Yeah. In fact, Dan interviewed me.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
For my sins.
Yeah.
Luckily he escaped and came up and made this awesome place.
It was a very brief time I was there. It was about 2 months, I think. I worked as a part-timer there. 2-3 months?
Because I think Torquay was first, wasn't it?
Torquay was open before Plymouth.
There isn't a Games Workshop in Torquay anymore.
Is that gone, is it?
Yeah. There's an independent stockist, but there isn't a Games Workshop, sadly.
It was in a weird position at one time.
It was odd. Like, there's out of the way, and there's, like, scary to go to.
it was in a weird place.
Then there's Taunton. Yeah, absolutely. So that's pretty cool. So what happened then to end up to this place? Because I talk about here quite a lot, and how I like coming down and gaming, and you've got such a good setup, and how it's growing, and you're always improving. So how did you go from your bit of part-time in Games Workshop to deciding this was the way forward?
Well, there was a big gap between... So I, as a lot of people do, I got to about 18 and pretty much dropped out of the hobby for about 10 years. And then I'd moved back to Plymouth at that point. Said work part-time in Games Workshop. I got made redundant a couple of times. I used to manage pubs. So I got made redundant a couple of times. Because 2008 happened. And so I started working part-time in Games Workshop, but I got back into the hobby before that, obviously. And there was a place down in Plymouth, the Giant's Lair, that had opened up. And I started gaming there and got quite involved in playing Warhammer Fantasy on the tournament scene. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time or the money to go away to many tournaments, but I was doing most of the local tournaments for that. And dabbled in a bit of Malifaux as well on the competitive scene. And then when the guys down in Plymouth said that they were going to shut up shop, one of the guys, Andy Avery, said he was moving up to Bristol, and I said, well, are you looking at opening up somewhere up there? And he said, thinking about it. And I jokingly said, are you looking for a business partner? And he jokingly went, well, we might be. And then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, well, maybe I could make this work. And then we did. So
what did you start off with when you? I mean, because it's a bit like on an industrial estate, like a warehouse come shop front, and it's packed full of gaming tables with a little store. So what came first?
This unit, the whole unit.
Yeah.
So when we were coming up and looking for places, you've got... So it's not just as simple as going, I'm going to open a gaming venue.
Yeah.
You kind of have to take into account how much it's going to cost.
Yeah.
And to rent a unit of this size isn't cheap. And the closer to the city centre you get, the more expensive it is.
Yeah.
It's kind of odd thinking about cost sensibly in relation to this hobby.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
But yeah, so business rates go up the closer you are to the city centre. It's harder to provide somewhere with parking. And most people want to come out and game for, especially at weekends, they want to be gaming for most of the day. Tournament-wise, well, tomorrow we're opening at 9:30.
Yeah, not 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like Dan was trying to tell
me. But 9:30, and we'll be running through, probably finish about 6:30, 7-ish by the time all the announcements and everything are done. So paying for a day's worth of parking in the city centre obviously adds to the costs.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't get a huge amount of passing trade if we were in the city centre anyway. We're a destination.
Yeah.
As opposed to like Games Workshop city centre shops, they're drawing people in, and it's a lot of passing trade. Whereas people come out here specifically to game. I mean, we see 300-400 people a week come through the doors on average. That's a mix of people gaming at tournaments.
Only half of them are me coming over and over again.
So some of those are coming to play tournaments at weekends. A lot of evening guys come out and just play whatever games. And then we do get a lot of people that just come out to use the shop. So I've got a number of customers that have never gamed here and just come out and use the shop because they're not having to pay for parking. They can just nip out because we're open late weekday evenings as well. So, yeah.
That's a surprising bonus, isn't it? I mean, the number of times I've been sat painting at 9 o'clock and thought, oh, I need that. Like, I've run out of paint or something, or my glue's gone. Having someone to pop down to at 9 o'clock is a big deal, I think.
I love it. Absolutely. So it's interesting because you mentioned about the parking and stuff, and it's just great that you can just pull up outside, and like you say, you're open late, I'm only 15 minutes away. It's actually better to come later in a way because you miss the traffic then.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, we're a destination for a lot of people. Yeah. So it's not what we lose from not being in the city centre.
Yeah.
We wouldn't make up extra business in passing trade to cover the additional cost of renting a city centre property, paying city centre business rates.
Certainly not on this size as well.
No, I mean, we've got 4,500 square foot.
And how many tables have you got?
So a comfortable capacity for us is 80. I don't tend to do much more than that. That's playing on 6x4s.
So 80 people playing, so 40 tables.
So 46 by 4s. Yeah. I can squeeze more in, but I don't like squeezing more in, so I cap at that point. So the setup with the tables downstairs that you've seen,
which is ace. So we're going to shove pictures of that up. It's brilliant.
So there's a reasonable amount of room between the tables there.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
And you're not playing bum to bum.
No.
As at some large events that I've been to in the past, they're packing people in, and it's great. You've got those people in there and you're gaming, and it's all good fun, but it can get a bit close at times. So,
and you don't want to be knocked into and knock people's models over, and there's all that hassle with the inside place, isn't there?
So there's 21 tables set up down there at the moment.
Yeah.
And then there's 10 up here.
Yeah.
There's one more table that goes in that main area, and then behind the roller door at the back, there's another 8 tables that can be set up there. Again, with decent amount of room around them. And then the 10 up here, so that gives us 40 tables.
So really great to note as well. So you've got a 40k at the Autumn Tides tomorrow. So there's 42?
Yep,
42 people. So
that's
there's 42
a big
people.
Tournament.
So that's a big tournament. Yeah. But on top of that doesn't mean that pay and play is not on tomorrow, because you've got the capacity for up here. People can still come down.
I've got about 4 or 5 of the tables booked out up here tomorrow as well. And we'll probably get capacity up here just on the walk-ins as well as the... So, we'll probably have about 20 people up here, 40 people, 42 people downstairs. So we'll be not far off full capacity tomorrow.
Plus you've got your painting and chill-out area.
So...
guarded by your Primera Space Marine. Or it was last time I was down there.
He's down there, camouflage.
Is that his name?
It's his name. There's a song, I can't remember, was it late 80s, early 90s, called Camouflage.
Oh, right.
And one of the lines is he really was one hell of a big Marine. And when I unpacked the standee, I was like, that's one hell of a big Marine. So...
Excellent. Why not? So, talking about, so Autumn Tide is obviously 40k, but you've got scenery here. We're just looking around for a vast array of games, haven't you?
Yep.
So you can accommodate pretty much anything people want to play, I think.
Yeah. The only one I would struggle with is 15 mil. 15 mil. I can do a few tables of 15 mil, but I don't have a lot of 15 mil terrain.
Still pretty cool that you can do a few tables. It's the one you struggle with the most, is a few tables of 15. Because I've definitely seen some 28 mil sort of Japanesey style stuff.
Yeah,
I think that's really nice.
Yeah, the table that you've seen set up in there is just set up as a 4x4. But there's enough terrain there. I've also got a 4-story pagoda.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, downstairs.
That needs finishing. But,
yeah. I know there's some space mats behind me. Yeah. Lots of generic green. Some really nice city stuff as well next door. Seen. And there's that also. Have you still got the awesome trees thing?
Yeah, that
one. It's a bit.
That one needs repairing.
Yeah, it's a bit. It's been attacked
that
by
was one of our customers.
Burned down by the corn.
Tim built that. That was his own private gaming thing, and he was sort of like, "Well, I don't game at home, so I brought this up." And I was like, "Tim, that's gorgeous. It's going to get damaged if it gets played on." And he's like, "It's fine. Like, it just needs to be used." So it was used at one Age of Sigmar event.
Oh dear.
And unfortunately, it's not massively robust, so it's out the back waiting to be repaired. But it's cool. It looks like an Ewok village when it's
yeah, it's awesome. Cool. I suppose that's something else you've got to consider, isn't it? It's making sure everything's robust.
Yeah. So I've got the Japanese table you were talking about, it's MDF terrain, which is great. MDF terrain is great, but I have to keep an eye on it here. So it tends to come out when people specifically ask for that terrain. Because if it's just left out and people are grabbing it in bits and pieces, the MDF is a little fragile.
Especially, it's quite intricate, isn't it? That stuff.
Yeah. Well, most MDF stuff is. So I've got a load of Second World War stuff in MDF as well for bolt action, chain of command, well, any 28mm Second World War green. And I've got that from a number of different suppliers, and some of it's more robust than others. Do you know Colin, Charlie Foxtrot?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
So I wargamed a couple of times with Colin when I was back down in Plymouth. So I've got some of his stuff, and that's actually pretty good because he makes it out of slightly thicker MDF. And because you don't have quite so many, like on that Japanese stuff, there's some very fine bits. Because you don't tend to have so many fine bits on the sort of like solid European looking buildings, that survives a lot better. And Colin's stuff's really good because it's a little bit thicker.
I think Colin's is probably going to be, because it's what's the name of the show next Sunday? Revelli,
and then you got Warfare going on this weekend.
Yeah, Warfare this weekend. Yeah.
So I don't know whether Colin may well be at Warfare this weekend, and he may well be at Revelli. So he's been getting around a lot of the shows.
Yeah.
He's producing some really nice stuff. I really like his. He's just done a load of Mediterranean-looking stuff that you could use for, pretty much any Mediterranean, so sort of like Spanish Napoleonic stuff.
Don't get us onto pirates
or pirates.
No, Blood and Plunder is so close to being in my next year's worth of hobby.
A great big ship.
They've just sort of released sneak peeks of the galleon, and
it looks awesome, doesn't it? I've had to resist myself on that one because it's awesome and it's pirates.
Yeah, ship to ship combat and 2 galleons. I'm all over that.
But just hang on, bear with me just 1 second.
Oh, he's gone looking for something. So this could be bad if we see something really inspiring, couldn't it?
Yeah, but it means that we have to talk to each other now again.
Oh my goodness, that's outrageous, isn't it? Yeah. So Ben, at the moment, got me in trouble because I didn't tell him he needed to write some fluff for our event tomorrow. Oh no! What? Oh, look at this!
That is gorgeous. Tablescape.
So Jim's just grabbed out. We'll have to get some pictures of this. So like a tablescape Mediterranean church.
Yeah.
Did this come painted like this too?
Yep, that's how it turns out.
So pre-painted, and actually pre-painted. It's dry brush, but but nicely, and it's got like the highlights. It's not like the flat colours that you sometimes see, is it?
No, when she keeps sort of laughing at me when I say that looks pretty great, but it needs weathering. I don't think that these do. These look like they're just ready to go.
Yeah, and you were saying about robust because it's that I don't know, it's like a foam type solid stuff, so it's pretty. It should be pretty robust. But yeah, I've got a whole town's worth of it.
Awesome.
Have you really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh dear, that's brilliant, isn't it?
There's another.
Oh my goodness.
There's another box
Put that
of it.
down. Put that down.
That's for our sharp practice we're doing. Peninsular War. But yeah, I got it.
Oh, Dan.
I know, man.
Yeah, I got it because it can be used for.
Don't draw that parallel between sharp and 28mm Napoleonic.
If you haven't played Sharp Practice, Ben, it's awesome. 2 fat lardies. Rich has done a sterling job on writing the rules for it. It's epic. We had a campaign weekend down here. And it was 4 games played, 2 on the Saturday, 2 on the Sunday, and we had people dropping in and out playing, and people bring their own models. A guy called Dave Hunter came down and ran it all for us, and he bought a huge box of models so that if you didn't have models, you could just jump in and play.
That is something I really like that you see a lot more, I think, in the historical wargaming community, is where people will just build a big collection to get everyone involved. So rather than just owning your own collection and turn up all the time, you'll get people who'll say, right, I'm doing Peninsular War, so they'll paint all the British, the French, the Spanish, whatever they need, and then rock up with it, and then anybody can get involved. And I love that. I think that's such a cool community way of approaching gaming, and something I'd be well up for doing. If you took the Badab War, for example, and then decided to did it with 40k, but you do see it a lot, I think, with historical.
Well, yeah, I mean, one is historical models on the whole work out to be a lot cheaper to get hold of, so it's not quite so much of an investment. I mean, if you take something like the Heresy would be a great thing to do that with, wouldn't it? Horus Heresy, to just do a campaign weekend where you could just come along and jump on the model. But you're talking, even with the new plastics, probably
and I'd have to paint
around.
Heretics.
You wouldn't have to.
No, I don't paint Heretics.
I've got an Imperial Fist army.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're talking sort of like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds. A good size 30k force could set you back well over £1,000.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Whereas, I mean,
you'd be swimming in models, wouldn't you, of Napoleonics for £1,000?
I mean, I've got Victrix boxes in the shop, which are nice models, really nice plastics, and it's about 23 quid for 50, 60 models.
Yeah, like a company of infantry, isn't it?
Yeah. And usually 28mm, they usually break it down to be about 24 models to a battalion. So yeah, you get a couple of battalions, 2-3 battalions out of a box. I mean, generally, if you're playing a large scale Napoleonics, then you're going to need a lot of battalions. So you'll still end up buying a lot of those boxes. But they also break them down into centre and flank companies. And all sorts of stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot cheaper. So it's easier in some respects to go. Yeah, Warlord have just released their starter armies for the Peninsular War boxes. I think they're about 95 quid, and you get nigh on 100.
144 models, I think it is, isn't it?
And
again, a gun.
Yeah, and a cannon, yeah.
And then they do like an expansion box.
Yeah. But then games like Sharp Practice, they call it large scale skirmish. So it plays with between 30 and 100 models a side. And
it's kind of where the Warhammer 40k Warhammer sort of numbers are, aren't they?
Yeah. But I mean, I've just bought some Spanish because we've got another campaign event and I'm running one of the tables for that. So I've been interrupted by Necromunda, but I should be painting Spanish for that.
Yeah, everyone's been interrupted by Necromunda.
Yeah.
I literally cannot wait.
So we've talked about your gaming area, which is Ace, and we've just been talking a lot about historical. So my favourite part of here, by far, is the shop. Because it's packed now. And I've said before, actually, I remember saying to you when I first sort of came in, that I was a little bit obsessed with this idea that stuff had to be on the shelf because I wanted to buy it off the cuff. And actually what I found over time is that A, you get it in really quick. B, I'd rather support you anyway, so I don't mind waiting. C, I really don't need models right this second. But lastly, you've grown that range now, and actually you hold quite a range, really, don't you? I think quite a cross section of miniatures.
Yeah, I mean the shop's grown as the business has started to grow, so pretty much most of the money goes back into the business. So when we started, we didn't. I mean, we've got the neoprene mats on what I can do about 90% of the tables now. So about 30-35 neoprene mats on tables. But when we first started, we didn't have that. We had blocks and textured board. So when I got a little bit more money to invest in the business, I went out and bought a load of neoprene mats. And it's the same with the shop. As the shop's got busier, it's allowed me to invest more money in stock. And it's also, because we've been here now 3 years, I've got much more of a handle on what will sell from my shop.
Yeah.
So I can be a lot more focused in what I buy. And also the other thing I found is that the more of something I have on the shelf, the more I sell of it. So Games Workshop stuff has sold reasonably well for us since we opened. That's just a given, and it's pretty easy. Games Workshop make it easy for you actually as a stockist.
I know we discussed probably in the last year or so as well with their the changes they've made. It's making it easier and easier.
They make it easy for you as a stockist. Because if you're on their stockist program, they have core lines that you keep in stock, and they monitor what sells for them, which are their top selling lines, and they say, well, you keep these on the shelves, and you sort of commit to them to always having that stock on the shelf. So as soon as it sells, you reorder it through. But they know what's selling through and they're monitoring it. So if you're just starting out, then you go, well, we'll take that because that's what people want. That's what people are buying. And then from there, I obviously get to know the trends within my own customer base. So I can then pick up on, so I go through phases where maybe I'll have pretty much every Necron in the range on, because I know that there's 3 or 4 guys locally that have just started up Necron forces. So I'll respond to that by making sure there's Necron stuff on the shelf, more than necessarily I have to stock. And yeah, so the Games Workshop stuff was relatively easy because Games Workshop make it easy for you. Some of the other stuff has been trial and error. The historical range kind of started off as a bit of an indulgence because I like the historical stuff. So it started off very small. But then as a lot more local people realised I was stocking historical stuff, that allowed me again to grow the historical range. So now I have quite an extensive range. I carry a lot of Victrix, a huge amount of Warlord. I'm a Warlord official stockist as well. One of the higher levels of their stockist level, so I carry quite a lot of Warlord stock. Gripping Beasts, I carry pretty much their full range of plastics. But it's all stuff that sells through. And then I tend to, as newer stuff comes out, Games Workshop's easy, there's pretty much new stuff comes out every week. So
That's not an exaggeration, is it?
On that one, I obviously take a lot of pre-orders off customers for the new releases and try and get in slightly more stock than just the pre-orders, and then that will sit on the shelf for a bit. So I mean, a Plague Burst Crawlers, is it the tank thing? That is a Plague Burst Crawler, isn't it?
Is this the evolved smart car or the big
No,
one?
the big one. The big one. It is the Plague Burst Crawler,
Yeah, so it's got the big mortar on the front. I mean, that one, I think I've sold a load of them on pre-order, and I've sold at least one a week since release.
Indirect fired, like, tank busting cannon. Yeah, okay.
But yeah, so that is now sort of like a permanent fixture in my range. When I sell one, I order another one in, and it goes on the shelf. Other ranges sort of like go in and out of vogue. X-Wing, at one point I couldn't stock it fast enough. That's slowed down a bit, but I've got pretty much a full range of X-Wing on the shelf, and as it sells through, I replace it. But the shop's grown, and the ranges that I stock in have grown with it.
I think what's quite impressive is the vast range of hobby products that you've got. So I know you've got a large amount of the Vallejo model colour. You've got the Vallejo Game Air. You've got the Vallejo metal range now, which is quite recent, which is really cool.
Yeah, so we've got
people keep ranting and raving about that metal.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It was one of my customers put me onto it as well. It was just like, have you tried this? And I was like, no. He's like, it's brilliant. Get it in, and I will buy some. And then I was like, okay, I'll see if I can get it. And then he backpedaled massively, and he was like, don't get it in just because I've said it's awesome. It's just like, because I'm, But I was like, no, it's a guy that I trust. He's a very good painter. Yep, trust his opinion, so we'll give it a go. So I got in a limited range. I think I got in a gold, silver. And it goes on. It's meant to go on over a gloss black primer to get the best effects. So I got some of the gloss black primer and some of their metal varnish. It's supposed to go over the top of it, and that sold through. I experimented with it to see how I got on with it. And so when customers came in and asked, I could give an honest opinion on it.
And your cabinets are filled with your models. I think you just told me that half of the models in them are
about half of the models in there.
They're really lush, mate. There's some great models around here.
But yeah, we've got a pretty good hobby range.
Lots of gamers grass, the little tufts and stuff. Yeah. There's loads of that. I've picked up a load of that. And you've even got the packs of like the weathering.
Yeah, Vallejo do a load of little packs. They do one for vehicle weathering, rust effects, streaking, stuff like that, and they do a whole one on non-metallics as well, which looks pretty cool.
It's kind of a theme for the month, isn't it, non-metallics?
Well, yeah, because you had the interview, didn't you? You told me in the last episode and talked about non-metallics.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit beyond me. I'm like, I'll just slap on a bit of bolt gun metal, not bolt gun metal, lead belcher, and look at it in different lights when I want to look at it differently. Cool.
Well, I think we're going to have to wrap it up, but it's been really awesome talking to you, mate. I am super stoked about coming in tomorrow.
I am, yeah, actually. From about an hour ago or hour and a half when I was half falling asleep on the floor in the living room because I was so tired, so then having a coffee, coming down, having a chat, really excited. It's going to be awesome.
Should be good.
Really appreciate, everything do really. Jane, people will know or hopefully know you've been really supportive of the podcast, sharing things, chatting to me, endlessly about whatever every time I pop in, so that's great. So thank you so much.
Is he chatting to you, or are you chatting to him endlessly?
I don't know. We both have our fair share.
We're both bad for it, to be fair.
Okay. We have a good go at it.
My missus does have to come into the shop and at times and say, "Leave that customer alone, Jim. They really need to go." I'm fairly sure I've had people that I've been chatting at for quite a while who have been close to wetting themselves
because they needed the toilet.
They've just been too polite to go.
On that bombshell, guys, all I could say is if you are up in the area, or even if you're not, get on a plane and travel. But come see Jim in Big. Fantastic venue. We'll get all the details up and get some links. Thank you again, dude.
Yeah, I'll chuck you some links to the Tablescape guys because they're doing some awesome terrain, and Charlie Fox, he does some cool stuff as well.
Absolutely. So some stuff for you guys to check out. Thank you very much for listening. Cheers, guys.
We're in the wilds, Dan.
The wild. So we are back, guys. The drop pod. Ben's just singing. One on it.
You don't want to hear me sing, though.
You done?
Probably, yeah.
Right, good. We are almost at the planet's surface now, bringing the light that is chatting on a sofa to another world in the Imperium. But what we wanted to talk about in the wilds today was some really awesome terrain. that we've seen. Oh, it's great. So what we've got, Ben is flicking through the iPad, looking at it now. So this is Tabletop World. So they create buildings, fantasy-esque, scenic buildings, and they are, well, they're incredible, aren't they, Ben, really?
They're amazing. I mean, remember the old inn that Forge World did?
Yeah.
It's right out of that kind of part, but I think these are better.
Yeah. Well, they focus on that, don't they? So they're in resin.
The detail, guys, is phenomenal. Like, one of my favourites is the Blacksmith's Forge. The whole forge is set up. It's got the table with the anvil, and it's just amazing. I'm trying to bring the actual... I'm not an iPad man. I don't have an iPad, so I don't know what I'm doing. Look, with a fire, and there's tools hanging on the wall.
There.
And I think with these buildings, you can take the roof off as well and look inside. But these are significantly nice.
Look at that town gate, dude.
Yeah.
That's insane. Yeah, so, and what's so nice is they're so well done, they look like they're real.
They do.
They do, don't they? They look like models of real places.
Yeah.
But they've got enough, like, slightly quirky to be fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And having things like a blacksmith's forge and a merchant shop goes back to what we were saying in the Mortal Realms segment about world building. You know,
yeah.
Who makes the Dark Oath swords?
The Dark Oath sword bloke.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And like, there's a merchant shop here. We'll post pictures of all these guys because we'll post the links. The merchant shop is a 3-story building, but it just comes with a whole ton of stock that is in this picture just piled up around the front of his house.
For the pumpkins.
And a string of sausages, look. With a string of
sausages, a butternut squash.
Cauliflowers, buckets, barrels, cauldrons. It's just phenomenal. It's so detailed. It is really, really nice.
I would really like, going back to what I was saying in the Mortal Realms segment with the floating islands, I may have been quite excited about that. It might have come across. These, imagine them like on there, but like with vines growing up around them and stuff. Man, it would just be so good.
They're not prohibitively expensive. I mean, some of the bigger ones are, but €52 is about 30, 40 quid. 40 quid now?
Yeah, 40, 45.
40 quid. That is a centrepiece. You don't need more than one or two of these, really, to make a really big...
No,
impact.
And obviously if you won the lottery, you'd build a town, wouldn't you? But you don't have to.
Yeah, another thing worth pointing out is they have a range of smashed-up buildings that are crying out to be a Mordheim build.
Look at those town walls.
I know. Amazing.
That's amazing, isn't it?
What have we got in here? Landscape. This is a new way of doing this section, just going through the
Yeah.
River section.
Look at that dead tree! Oh, so with the rivulet, you could essentially buy some sort of polystyrene...
And just set it in.
And set it in.
And then fill it full of resin or something.
Wonderful.
And this isn't a cheap way of doing it, dude. They're 25 quid, they're 25 euros a section.
No, that is true.
But they are stunning. Absolutely stunning. All the accessories. Let's go into accessories. And I know that one of these guys... Oh, look at this.
That well is just... Well, it's amazing. Rubble. Groceries. Supplies. Hey! Could use some of those supplies to do me barbecue shop in the Mortal Realms.
In the Realm of Fire?
Yeah, absolutely. So, definitely worth checking out, guys. The Tabletop World stuff is really, really nice.
We could spend hours just going
We
through
could spend a long time going through. And actually, to be fair, we would love to hear from anyone that's got some of it. Because we're obviously looking through saying, oh, this is amazing. I've not actually held any of these things, neither of you. But I'm sure... I have a feeling that won't last.
All right.
Well, that tower needs to end up on a floating island full of skulls, so...
Yeah, it certainly does.
It's got to be done.
Certainly does. I'd like to see more of the ruined townhouses
to
make a proper Mordheim board.
Well, it'll come in time, I'm sure.
Yeah, really, really impressed with that.
So really, really cool. So, guys, that about wraps up episode 12.
That is the shortest Into the Worlds we've ever done.
Yeah, well, maybe next time will be a bit longer. We've got something a bit special in the works, which I don't really want to talk about right now, to be honest, because I want you guys to come back and listen to the next one. So, yeah, we're going to be doing some more stuff with Into the Wilds, hopefully soon. So thank you for listening. As ever, thank you for those of you, lots of you interacting online. That's fantastic. We're still having an absolute blast.
Yeah, definitely.
Really, really good. Getting to meet up and chat and do hobby stuff. So we hope you're enjoying it as well, guys. Thanks very much.
Yeah, and please come and talk to us at the 2P's podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Because we love, if you have any questions, pose a question to us and feedback from the episodes, then come on and have a chat. We love it.
We absolutely do. Thank you very much, guys.
Bye now.